Joining me now is Roger Stone. Roger, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you.
Okay, let's start with the Elon Musk Trump dust up before we go to the BBB and midterms and all that stuff. What do you make of this?
I mean, look, the country owes an enormous debt to Elon Musk when he bought Twitter and converted it to a free speech site. And while it's not perfect, it's very, very good. He put a target on his back, and there were 9 federal investigations that would have destroyed his companies and probably sent him to jail. That's called the deep state. That's weaponization. When after he bought the free speech site, he became a great danger to them. He wisely decided to support Donald Trump. I think he was helpful in his election. And he is not wrong about the fact that we need to cut federal spending. And he's not wrong, but he is wrong about the big, beautiful bill, which is a deeply flawed piece of legislation. And there are a few things in there that I really don't like that I hope the Senate strips out regarding artificial intelligence and a couple other issues. But it is the largest tax increase in our history, and it needs to be renewed. This happened in the first Trump term. Does away with the tax on tips, does away with the tax on Social Security. It also, and this is quite important, provides the funding for a Golden Dome missile.
Oh, yes, yes.
We used to call this SDI under Reagan. They made fun of us calling it Star Wars. Think how much the technology has advanced since then. So I strongly support the big, beautiful bill, recognizing it's not perfect. Where Elon is really wrong is that the place to cut spending is in a rescission bill. Trump administration has a $98.4 billion rescission bill going to the Congress that will essentially zero out USAID, which has become the slush fund of the far left. But I think there's more at play than just that. I mean, I understand that Elon was unhappy when the president reversed himself over the candidacy of a man named Jared Isaacman to be the head of NASA. He was evidently Elon's candidate, but in the background check, it turned out that he had given lavishly to Obama and Kamala and Joe Biden, a number of Democrat senators, and so on. So I think he was miffed about that. Also, the Trump administration decided not to use his Starlink for air traffic in the air traffic control program. He was unhappy about that. This stuff about Epstein is, of course, outrageous. In my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women, I made it very clear that Donald Trump never visited Epstein's island. There is one recorded long public report of Trump being on Epstein's plane once. It flew from New York to Palm Beach. Marla Maples, to whom Trump was then married, was on the flight, as was his daughter Tiffany, as they were going to Palm Beach for the weekend. He was never on Epstein's island. He was never at his ranch in New Mexico. He was never at his apartment in Paris, like Steve Bannon, where Steve Bannon visited him there. Trump was never.
Oh, wait a minute. What, really? Really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It reported in the New York Post. I'm not sure what Bannon was doing associating with Jeffrey Epstein between the time Epstein was convicted of the sex crime in Florida and the time he was charged for the sex trafficking, ultimately federally. But they actually made a documentary together, which has never seen the light of day.
What was the documentary on?
I have no idea. They won't release it.
And if Steve wants to come on the broadcast to refute or discuss any of this, he's welcome. Just FYI, that's my policy. So there you go.
But I mean, the point here is, so Trump is in none of his homes, doesn't go to his home in New York, another place where Bannon visited Epstein. He goes to Epstein's home one time in Palm Beach, and the testimony of Virginia Giuffre, who was there, one of Epstein's victims, who they very recently told us committed suicide. I doubt that.
Oh, do? You don't think she committed suicide?
No, I do not. She was a very stout, tough woman. I interviewed her for hours and I read every word of her testimony for my book, The Clintons' War on Women. The longest chapter in the book, I expose Jeffrey Epstein. So, and his ties to the Clintons. Trump cuts Epstein off prior to Epstein being exposed and charged in Florida for a sex crime. The sheriff, the Palm Beach County, police chief, gives the local prosecutor an open shut case of child sex trafficking of 33 children and statutory rape of 33 children. And the prosecutor knocks that down to a one charge of solicitation, which would be like Logan walking into a bar and soliciting a prostitute. Not that he would ever do that. So the police chief knows that something's wrong. Epstein has hired Alan Dershowitz. He's hired Gerald Lefcourt. He's hired Roy Black. He's hired all these he hired the former special counsel. In any event, Epstein, the police chief goes to the federal prosecutors in Miami, Alex Acosta, and he says to Acosta, something's not right here. Acosta does his own investigation, trying to determine whether the county prosecutor was bribed or threatened. And he instead rubber stamps the state's charge, and he seals the whole thing so no one will ever know. Palm Beach Post valiantly went to court, gets the record sealed. That's how we know everything we know about Epstein today. So it is incredible. Trump cuts him off prior to that.
When you say cuts him off, he kicks him out of Mar-a-Lago, right?
Yes, because he makes an inappropriate advance to an underage girl who's working in the spa, and that's it. Trump bars him. He's then charged and convicted. Hillary and Bill take millions from him after his conviction on state sex charges. Bill is on the Lolita Express 23 times. I believe he's on the island 17 times. I've read testimony from dozens of women who were at several parties with Bill Clinton on Orgy Island. The Tara Maher Foundation, which is headed by Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's pimp, is completely funded by the Clinton Foundation. So Epstein gives the money to the Clinton Foundation. The Clinton Foundation gives this money to a foundation that recruits young women to study marine biology, when in fact what it really is a grooming pool for Epstein's future victims.
Well, and that's been proven in court?
These are all public records. So the difference here, this idea that Trump is in the Epstein file, is I think Elon is irresponsible to say it. What I think is even more disturbing is his tweet in which he says Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should be president. Now, first of all, I'm not sure how J.D. Vance feels about that, but Elon does tip us off as to where he is in that race, along with a lot of the other Silicon Valley and crypto people are all on board for J.D. Vance for president.
Mm-hmm. How concerned are you of Peter Thiel and this Palantir, and they're working with the IRS and CIA, according to reports?
Very, 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 very disturbing. I mean, look, we saw the way they perverted the Patriot Act.
Yes.
They said, let us spy on you. Let us spy. We're only going to use it on Islamic terrorists. And they turned it around and spied on American citizens, including candidate Donald Trump, which is a perfect example of their abuse of it. Now we have Real ID. This was passed in the wake of 9/11. Mm-hmm. It's been held up in the courts because 26 states correctly say it's unconstitutional. But as of May 7th, people don't know this. When you try to get on an airplane with your driver's license, that will be insufficient. If you don't have a passport, you are what we call SOL, and you have to have this little sticker from Real ID, and to get that sticker, you have to give them a bunch of your information. So this is biometric data collection on the American people. They sell it by saying, "Oh, this will stop people who aren't eligible to vote from voting, or this will stop people who are not eligible to get Social Security from getting it," which sounds great, but they're collecting this data. Ultimately, they will spy on you. They will track you, and I suspect if we don't hold on to the White House, they'll someday give us a social credit score.
Well, yeah. So do you think President Trump is aware of Palantir and how dangerous it is, and that you've got isn't it one of their co-founders, what's his name, the Katz, Logan, that's overseas saying we help to defeat the far right in Europe?
Yes, I saw that, found it very disturbing. I don't know what the president knows about this. I've not spoken to him.
A lot of the MAGA people are Karp, last name Karp. Thank you, Logan. I know a lot of the MAGA people online are very disturbed about this.
No, I think they should be. Look, there's some AI stuff in the big beautiful bill that's similarly dangerous. Some restriction on our ability to restrict AI.
Yeah, like 10 years. States can't touch AI for 10 years.
No, I mean, that's one of the things that I asked about. This Palantir thing is deeply troubling. I need to learn more about it. I have been focused on Real ID. Kristi Noem has a $200 million budget to push Real ID on television. And you can see the ads. It's going to make us safer. Well, I don't think so. I think it's going to be used to track us. Now, she and her erstwhile political strategist, Corey Lewandowski, think this $200 million ad buy is their opening bid for her presidential campaign.
Because my guess is she's going to be starring in the commercials, right?
She is. You can see them. They're already up. But Barbie is not going to get elected president.
There's no way. No way.
The first woman president would be Tulsi Gabbard, who's doing a tremendous job. Last week, she fired another 100 deep staters from the national security apparatus. John Brennan went out of his mind, and she referred a number of them to the Justice Department for illegal leaking. Wow. She's tough as nails, and she's doing a great job. She's been very aggressive in following up on the president's order regarding the Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and MLK assassination records. She's been very aggressive with the agencies that seem to be holding stuff back. She's doing a great job.
What do you say of people saying, like, wasn't it Steve Bannon that said that the government should take SpaceX? Did he say that, Logan?
No, it's worse than that. So Steve Bannon, desperate for clicks, says that Elon Musk, a U.S. citizen, should be deported.
Yes.
Deport a U.S. citizen. And he says the government should seize his company. That's called communism. That's not what we do. That's what Castro does. Those are outrageous comments. You can do. I have a lot of respect for Elon. I don't agree with him. I'm sorry that he said these things about Trump. I stand with the president. I'm completely loyal to him. But I told you his motives. I think they're not just simply the spending issue. I think he is peeved about this personnel issue regarding Jared Isaacman. Mm-hmm. Isaacman's appointment was really killed, it is reported, by Sergio Gore, who runs the Office of Presidential Personnel. Sergio Gore came from Rand Paul's shop. He's a libertarian conservative. He's been very effective of keeping rhinos and other leftists out of the administration. He worked very hard to get the Librarian of Congress, who's a hardcore leftist, fired. I think he made the president aware of Isaacman's big Democrat contributions. I think Elon may be sore about it. Also breaking here is Kash Patel goes on with Joe Rogan.
Wow, it's almost like you're reading my mind, because we haven't rehearsed this. We haven't rehearsed this show, and that was where I was going next, was Kash Patel.
And he says they can't find any existing video of Epstein, of any of Epstein's victims or anything criminal or salacious happening with Epstein, which means the material was destroyed. It is undeniable because we can see with our own eyes the police leaving his New York apartment and his Palm Beach home with boxes of DVDs and hard drives. So the FBI had this material. This is very simple. The deep state covers their own ass. Remember, Acosta gave this guy a pass. When he was later appointed the Secretary of Labor, and he was preparing for his confirmation hearings. And they asked the U.S. attorney seeking to be the labor secretary, what are you going to say if they ask you about why you gave Epstein a pass? And he said, well, I'm just going to tell the truth. That the CIA came to me and told him he was ours and I was to seal the case.
Wow.
There it is.
What do you make about the talk of there being broken bones in Epstein's neck, that he could have never hung himself and broke these very tough bones in the neck?
No, look, I have a great deal of confidence in Kash Patel. However, Michael Bannon, who's the former New York City medical commissioner, probably the most respected pathologist in the country, examined Epstein's body, and he said these three different bone breaks are completely inconsistent with hanging himself. He says he has seen 100, actually said 1,000. He says, I've seen 1,000 hanging cases. He was the New York medical examiner for 37 years, I believe.
Right.
And I've never seen, this is inconsistent. Now you have the coincidence of the video cameras being out of commission. At the same time, two guards just conveniently fell asleep. And they remove Epstein's cellmate, so he's alone, and they take him off of suicide watch the day before they claim he committed suicide. So I think, and he hired a new lawyer, David Schoen, who's actually doing my radio show tonight. And he, 9 days before his death, he retained Schoen, and Schoen specifically asks him, do you have any information that would be derogatory towards President Trump? And he said, no, I don't. So he certainly had plenty of information on Bill and Hillary because they both visited the island.
Let me switch gears. I only got about 10 minutes. You got a hard out for another interview. So quick questions here. Tariffs, are they going to work? Is President Trump going to be able to bring taxes if you make 250 and under, no federal income tax? Is he going to be able to do that?
Yes, I think so. Look, I think that the tariff war is actually going relatively well, despite what the media tries to tell you. And also, people are distracted by the federal courts trying to stop the president from having the authority to negotiate tariff deals, something they never did under any other president. Just like the courts tried to say the president didn't have the authority to deport dangerous, illegal gangbangers and criminals, which of course he does. So this, I think, makes everything they're doing more difficult. But Scott Bessent, the Secretary of the Treasury, is a very, very able guy. He's a very good communicator. He's a very shrewd negotiator. He's a libertarian. He thinks outside the box. He is leading these negotiations in most cases. I think it is going to work, but it's only one leg of a three-legged stool. We must have the tax cuts in the big, beautiful bill. Elon's not wrong. We need a lot more spending cuts. The House Republicans are derelict. I agree. But we still need the continuation of the biggest tax cut in history. Otherwise, we get a 68% increase in our federal income taxes, every single person. So it is, as I said, the Gold Dome funding is in there. So I'm for the big, beautiful bill. It's not perfect, but I wonder if that's what Elon is really upset about. Or maybe it is this personnel matter regarding Jared Isaacman, or maybe some disappointment that there was no electric vehicle tax credit in the big, beautiful bill. You get a tax credit if you buy a car or truck made in the United States. Another great aspect of the bill. So, I hope.
So the three-legged stools: tariffs, tax cuts, and the third one?
Cutting regulations.
Cutting regulations. Okay. Let me ask.
And of course, spending regulations and spending. We have to cut spending to get the deficit under control. We can do so. Our revenues from the tax cuts, our revenues are going to take off. This is one of the great fallacies of the left that they push.
Yeah, Reagan proved that. Reagan proved that, didn't he?
Well, remember, Robert Reich, who was the labor.
Yes.
I've had it up to here with this guy. I went to high school with him. He was an arrogant leftist, and he was wrong then, as he is today. He insists that the tax cuts cause the deficit. The truth is, every time we have cut federal income taxes across the board, under Donald Trump, under Ronald Reagan, under John F. Kennedy, had a sharp spike in federal revenues from more economic opportunity, economic activity.
Yep.
So our deficits are caused by spending too much, not taxing people too little. And Elon uncovered shocking amounts of waste, fraud, and corruption, not millions, not trillions, but billions. And he rightfully wants to see that fat cut out. Now, will you get all of it? No, but you've got to get a lot of it. And it's a tough fight. We only control the House by 3 votes, essentially. And there are many Republicans there who have no cojones, as we say.
Yes.
You know?
So let me ask you two other things I've got to get in here. And that is, number one, midterms. But before we go to that, number two, is there any chance, as some are talking about in articles and social media or whatever, that Donald Trump as President Trump would ever default on our debt? Basically say, sorry, and just clear the books and start over. Is there any chance of that?
That is something I can't. I haven't followed that issue, and I cannot respond to that particular question. What was your first question?
Midterm elections. How are Republicans going to do?
Look, in American politics, a week is a lifetime. Anybody who tells you what's going to happen in the midterms doesn't know anything about politics. The situation we don't know what the economy is like at that time. We don't know what gas prices are at that time, food prices. Are we at war? Are we at peace? That would be an interesting question. We could very well be in the middle of a world war. So it's just way too early to handicap the election. Other than to say a lot will hinge on the economy at the time. If the economy is booming, that will make things much easier.
And don't we need to get rid of Powell? Don't we need Powell to go ahead and resign?
Now you're reading my mind. If the Federal Reserve Chairman, who cut the interest rates the last time the inflation rate is exactly where it is right now, would cut interest rates so we can have the Trump boom. He is purposely trying to spike the economy. He's not an economist. First of all, he's a lawyer, and he accuses Trump, who's been pounding the desk for a rate cut so people can buy homes. I
saw a study today where RV sales are just drying up because people can't justify buying a RV or a little camper at these interest rates. So again, it's hurting discretionary purchasing as well as essential.
It's really, really problematic.
Can President Trump fire him?
He cannot. He does not have the authority to fire the Federal Reserve. Now, his term is up in the middle of next year, and Trump gets to appoint the chair, and he'll appoint a far friendlier chair. But by then, the damage could very well be baked in. What we really need to do is we need to repeal the Federal Reserve Act.
Yes.
Something Ron Paul advocated and sponsored in the House decades ago. This is a foreign bank. We don't need them to set interest rates.
100%. 100% agree.
And it's completely political. They pretend they're not political, but they're entirely political.
And then finally, I know it's a ways off, 2028. Who do you see as, you've already mentioned Tulsi Gabbard. Other than that, who do you see as strong contenders for running for president?
Well, I think it was very telling when President Trump was asked in that Meet the Press interview, is J.D. Vance going to follow you? And he said, well, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I mean, he certainly have a leg up, but, Marco Rubio may also run. And I think there'll be 16 others, his words. You've identified Tulsi Gabbard as another I think is likely to run. Kristi Noem will probably run.
How about Don Jr.? He's talking about it.
He's made clear that he is not running. I don't think he's running. Kristi Noem will be running for comic relief. But this is how Eisenhower treated Nixon. So Trump is not going to turn the spotlight over to the new nominee until the latest possible time. Eisenhower delayed his endorsement of Nixon. Reagan delayed his endorsement of Bush for the same reason. You're passing the torch, and you don't want to pass it until the end of your term. So I don't really see that working, to be honest with you.
Okay, where can people watch the Stone Zone? Now, you were with us for a long time, but you everything's fine between you and us and our network. In fact, you may come back someday, but you got a great opportunity. You got a great opportunity.
No, look, I'm at WABC Radio. You can listen to me every weekday at 8 p.m. anywhere in the world by just going to WABCRadio.com. My show's called The Stone Zone. On Sundays, I'm on 2 hours from 3 to 5. Once again, WABCRadio.com. We talk politics, news, history, style, food. Last week I did my mother's eggplant parmesan recipe. It was a great show. Anyway, tune in. I think you'll like it.
I think you will too. And then stonezone.com, stonezone.com. Our buddy Roger Stone. It's always great to interview you, and we appreciate your being with us. Say hello to Mrs. Stone, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Brandon. God bless you.
You too, my friend. Roger Stone checking in, stonezone.com.